Hi, my name is Miracle Naji, and welcome to this YouTube channel. Let's say you're interested in a career in finance and you're perhaps an undergraduate, a recent graduate, or somebody that is trying to transition in his or her career into the finance space, and you are unsure as to the different career opportunities, you're unsure as to the different industry within finance where you could possibly explore and launch a career. If you stay with me in the next couple of minutes, I'm going to be sharing with you 6 different areas in finance that you could possibly explore. Without further ado, let's get started. All right, welcome back. So, like I mentioned, I'm going to be sharing with you 6 different areas within the finance space. And bear in mind, this is not an exhaustive list, but it's just to give you a manageable number that you can start with and begin your exploration. So, the first one, I'll be talking about accounting, tax, and audit, which I combined into one, commercial banking, investment banking, private equity and venture capital, and then I'll be talking about corporate finance through corporate development. So, for accounting, tax, and audit, so you mostly find that this is purely professional services rendered to organizations. So, from the accounting part of things, it's all about ensuring proper reporting of all financial aspects of an organization and creating financial statements that will aid decision making in line with relevant financial reporting and accounting standards and conventions. That's pretty much for the accounting side of things. Then for the tax services side of things, it's about helping organizations to stay tax compliant, ensuring that they are paying the appropriate amount of tax that they're supposed to pay, they are not underpaying, and they are not overpaying, just to ensure that the Federal Inland Revenue Service doesn't come after them. Then for audit part of things, now as part of a statutory requirement, corporate organization, especially when they get to certain financial threshold in terms of revenue, they are supposed to have their annual financial statements audited by an independent auditor. This is to ensure that everything that has been reported in the financial statement is a fair view of what's transpired in the organization, like they are not misleading stakeholders that will be depending on the financial statements to make critical decisions. Now, in terms of the organizations that tend to dominate the space, honestly, in Nigeria and in the world at large, it's dominated by the big four accounting firms, that is KPMG, Deloitte, EY, and then PwC. However, we have some other accounting firms that provide great learning opportunities for people that starting out. In Nigeria, we have Grant Thornton, we have Anderson, we have Pedable. These are also great organizations that you can join. Now, for somebody that is just starting out, it would be very interesting for you to explore their graduate training program. Every year they do have these different organizations tend to have graduate training programs, and it typically opens up somewhere around November and opens up till different organizations. They will have their own different timing, but I've observed them to be anywhere from November to the March of the following year. It depends on the financial year that the accounting firm runs. So it will be, if you're interested in a career in accounting, finance, and tax, then you should be gunning for the big four accounting firms, and their graduate training programs is a good place to start. Now that wraps it up for accounting, tax, and audit. Then next one is commercial banking, right? And commercial banks are very complex organizations with several moving parts. But just to keep things simple, right? Commercial banks typically provide a wide range of financial products like savings and loans products to individuals and businesses. So, as a commercial banker, your role will mostly involve building and maintaining relationships with business customers, whether the savings customers or the business customers, and then evaluating loan applications, trying to assess their credit worthiness. Should we give this person the loan or should we not give this person the loan, right? And then also some other aspects of financial advisory. But like I mentioned earlier, that commercial banks are very large institutions with different parts. One other exciting aspect in you could also find yourself within commercial bank is in terms of working in their treasury department. And the treasury department, their primary responsibility is managing the balance sheet of the bank and ensuring that there is a balance between the bank's assets and the bank's liabilities. So that's just to keep things simple, right? And the role we range from anywhere around assets and liability management for the bank, managing their capital reserve, having liaison with regulatory bodies to ensure that the bank stays compliant, and also liquid investment of some of the liquid investments in some government securities like bonds, right? So this is pretty much what the commercial banking space looks like. And then in Nigeria, if you're interested in exploring a career in commercial banking, then you should be gunning for the Fugas, right? So the Fugas is like the top five banks in Nigeria. So that's First Bank, UBA, GT Bank, Access, and then Zenith. Now, starting your career with these top tier one banks is very crucial because their training experience is quite industry competitive, and it also helps gives you a better exit opportunity. That sometimes when you've had like 1 2 years of work experience within this tier one banks, you see that the tier two banks, they will want to poach you, and obviously when they poach you, it's definitely going to be for a higher salary. And then also they offer different opportunities for entry level staff, and this is usually through their graduate annual graduate training program that most of them run, or some of them they call it their academy. Yeah. And I mean, in terms of the timelines when you would want to expect this graduate training program, so there's no, let's say, regular timelines. It's something that can open up depending on the needs of the bank. So you just have to pay attention and keep your heads down for the opportunities. But I've added the links to all of these different banks so that you are able to stay updated as to when their graduate training program is going to begin. Then the third one is asset management. Now, things start getting a bit interesting here, and that's just my own perspective because I kind of find the other ones boring. So for asset management, it involves the professional management of investments on behalf of individuals, high net worth individuals, and institutions in exchange for a fee, right, based on the assets under management. Now, the primary goal of asset management firm is to help their clients grow and preserve their wealth by helping them make informed investment decisions across different asset classes. These asset classes could be equities like stocks of publicly traded companies, bonds, real estate, and other assets, and other alternative asset class. It all depends on the risk appetite of that particular investor. So at the core of asset managers is to help their clients to minimize risks, help their clients to maximize returns on their investments, right, and help them diversify their portfolio of investments. So if you find yourself within the asset management space, especially in the entry level, you are going to be mostly involved in research roles where you are researching markets, you are researching different companies to be able to suggest to your clients which of them to invest into. So it's quite an interesting aspect to get into. Now, for the organizations where you could possibly work for, there are a number of them. So we have Stanbic IBTC, which has like 40% of the market with about 620 million naira in assets under management. So they're like the biggest when it comes to asset management. But we still have other players like FBN Quest, we have Chapel Hill Denham, we have Vetiva, we have Afri Invest. And quite interestingly, this organization, they tend to provide graduate training programs. So you want to look out for that. As of the time this video is being recorded, after Invest, their graduate training program is up and running. So you may want to look out for it and apply. Then also we now talk about investment banking. So investment banks, they pretty much serve as intermediary in complex financial transactions, and the two main aspects that they tend to provide services in is in terms of underwriting, providing underwriting services during capital raises. Say, let's say for instance, a startup that wants to do their initial public offering to raise money from the public market, they tend to approach an investment bank to help them with that. And beyond just equities based, they can also help in terms of debt finance raising. Then the second part is now advisory for less mergers and acquisitions. So two companies that want to merge together, or one big large company wants to acquire another company. So they typically approach investment banks to help to advise that process. So the investment banks handle the part of depending on which side engages the investment bank. I mean, the buy side can engage the investment bank or the sell side. So the sell side is who wants to sell the company, and the buy side is who wants to buy the company can engage an investment bank. And depending on which side engages the investment bank, that would to a large extent affect what the sort of activity will be. It will range from identifying the targets to be acquired, conducting due diligence, making financial forecasts just to ensure that a proper price is being set on that particular company that will be acquired. So that's pretty much what investment banking is about. If you really want to learn more about investment banking, I found a video on YouTube that is very, very helpful. So I've included the link. You may want to look at that particular video to learn more about the business of investment banking. And quite interestingly, there are different organizations, although at the global space is being dominated by the JP Morgan, the Goldman Sachs, but in Nigeria as well, we have quite a number of players that provide investment banking services. We have Chapel Denham, they provide investment banking services. There's Meristem, there's FBN Quest, there's also Rand Merchant Bank, and a number of them they also provide graduate training programs. So if you are considering this aspect, you may want to apply to their graduate training program. At least that gives you the foundational understanding that you need about the industry, so you can from there grow and build your career. So that's pretty much it about investment banking. Then the fifth one is private equity and venture capital. So private equity, it's in its broad sense, is about providing funding to companies that are private limited liability companies. That's companies that are not listed on any stock exchange. Yeah. So when it comes to the different stage of the development of the companies that are being invested in, a distinction is now being created between a private equity and then a venture capital firm. So for the venture capital, they typically provide investment and they provide funding to early stage, high growth and high risk companies. So when I say high growth, it means that companies that can grow fast. So because of that high growth requirement, that's why you find most venture capital investing in technology companies, because technology companies tend to bear that characteristics of being high growth. But it's not necessarily that all venture capital firms must invest in technology companies. They can invest in technology, they can invest in tech enabled, but the underlying factor is that it has to be a high growth company for the venture capital firm to invest. So because the risk involved in investing in this kind of firms is very high, that is why venture capital firms tend to require higher returns on their investment. So they don't want to just do 30%, they don't want to do 40%, but they want to do several X, like 10X of their capital that they invested in. So that's for venture capital. Then for private equity firms, they tend to invest in mature companies that are already stable, have a working business model, having cash flows, but perhaps they are struggling. So the private equity firm not just provide capital, but they also provide some operational expertise. They take over the management, so in some cases, especially where they purchase a large ownership stake in that particular company. So they take over the management, rebuild the company, and then possibly sell it to another party. So that's pretty much what private equity and venture capital is all about. Now, in terms of the organizations where you could possibly work, there are several private equity firms springing up in Nigeria and venture capital firms springing up in Nigeria, and there are quite a number of old players as well. So for private equity, we have the Kuramu Capital, there is Africa Capital Alliance, and there is Arua Capital, there is TLCom Capital. Then for venture capital, we also see Ventures Platform, there's Healthcap Africa, there's V8 Partners, there's Interactive Capital. But one thing we also find is that we see firms that provide both private equity type investment and as well as venture capital type investment. So that's pretty much what the space looks like. But private equity and venture capital is not one that is very big on taking entry level. So most times they hire people with work experience, maybe from other VC. For venture capital, they may hire from other VC firms, hire past investment bankers or past management consultants. So it's quite a space that is more big on hiring experienced staff than hiring entry level staff. But some of them do run graduate training program, like Healthcare Africa do run yearly graduate training program for people interested in a career in venture capital. Then the sixth one that I'm going to be talking about is corporate finance. So let's say you don't want to work in any of these organizations, that you want to stay within an industry, maybe like in FMCG. it's one that you can consider the corporate finance department of that particular organization. So within the corporate finance unit, your role is going to encompass anything from helping the out in the financial activities of the organization, like financial planning, budgeting, and capital structure management. On the other hand, there is also corporate development, and it's more or less a strategic role whereby you are assisting the growth of the company. So let's say Coca-Cola wants to get into a new niche within the beverage space, and instead of building that beverage company from the scratch internally, they could decide to purchase an already existing beverage company. So the corporate development aspect tend to have oversight of that aspect of the organization. So that's pretty much it about corporate finance and corporate development. If you want to learn more, I'm going to attach a link where you are going to pursue that. Now, for how to get in, so most times you may want you'll be starting with roles like financial analyst or even some accounting related roles, and then as you grow in your career, you can then branch into the specific corporate finance teams within that particular organization. But for corporate development, they mostly bring in experienced hires because it's something that is strategic and it requires experience, and so maybe they are bringing experienced hires that has past investment banking background or people that grew through the ranks internally within the organization to handle that. So that's pretty much it about these six different areas in finance that I explored. Like I mentioned, it's not an exhaustive list, but it gives you a good place to start to begin your exploration. So if you found value in this particular video, I would like you to subscribe and drop your comments. Thank you very much. See you in the next video.